birds, you'll immediately argue that birds make what appear to be functionally important bird's nests. But what we see you saw with the orangutans and with the chimpanzees, they actually make tools that are tools in the environment. I think some of the most interesting one, here's the basic host of chimpanzee tools. First, chimpanzees will take very thin little twigs, strip all the leaves off, stick them in ant mounds or termite mounds and wait. Then pull them out and suck all the termites and ants off.
Yeah, kebab.
Huh?
You got a kebab.
Exactly, they've got a kebab. They'll take sticks, kind of like long sticks, relatively thick, like this thick, strip all the branches and leaves off, sharpen the points on a rock, and stab them into trees where little primates called Senegalese bush babies hide. Fricassee, figured that one would be, right? They'll take bunches of leaves, because they can't always get their faces where the water is. They'll take a bunch of leaves and stick them in the water and squeeze them out into their mouths, essentially, effectively sponges. You saw the nut cracking. They become very expert at nut cracking. By the way, it's not just the rock or the log. It's finding a little hole in a piece of wood, especially, or a rock that will allow them to crack the nut and not lose the nut. What else am I missing? There's so many chin tools. They're so extraordinary. So this was the first sign that other creatures made tools, other than just us. So studying primates essentially tells us what does it mean to be a human in so many ways. Next, this tells us, hey, tool use doesn't go back. Cell phones, by the way, no in class, but just a no. Sorry. This tells us how long these things go back in time. Okay. So we are 7 million years old. Our stone tool use is 3 million years old. But tools may go back many, many more millions of years if they're common to orangutans, chimpanzees, maybe gorillas, maybe other creatures. And the thing is that we don't get much real life data from fossils, do we? Fossils don't really tell us much about the world. They just tell us this creature with this particular set of skeletal physiological elements existed. That doesn't tell us what that creature was doing. So it's by studying modern primates, and we look at their physiology, and then we look at their behavior, and we can begin to create ideas about correlation. Not causation, but correlation between any given particular of anatomy and any given particular type of behavior. So this is one of the great classics. So forward-facing eyes. What are forward-facing eyes about? Well, there's two arguments that have been going back and forth in primate ancestry. The basic rule is forward-facing eyes predator, side-facing eyes prey. Forward-facing eyes mean you're going after something and you can triangulate and understand distance. Side-facing eyes, you don't need to know how far it is away. You just need to be able to see all around and see that it's there. So if you're a predator, I need to know exactly how far you are away if I'm going to get you as a prey animal. Prey animals don't need to know how far away the lion is. They see anything that looks like a lion, you just run, right? So that's kind of the idea. But what about tree living? Are forward-facing eyes important for creatures that live in trees? Well, in the positive example, there are primates. You saw in all of these videos lots of jumping around in primates, also jumping from branch to branch. But wait, morning, what about squirrels? Squirrels do just fine leaping from branch to branch with eyes facing to the side. So apparently you don't need forward-facing eyes. Well, but it depends upon what you're doing. Maybe if you have grasping hands, it is good to have forward-facing eyes and leaping from branch to branch. It's a much more subtle thing to catch something like this than it is to land on top of a branch. Okay, that's interesting. But monkeys mostly land on top of branches. You saw the New World monkeys, the marmosets and the tamarins. Okay. So how do we judge forward-facing eyes and living in trees? So this is the kind of thing. You need a lot of modern anatomically similar creatures to study them and understand what it means to have a particular anatomy. What is a primate? Okay, here goes the big one you need to know. You can understand this. First, primates are those that have grasping hands at least, and maybe feet as well. Gorillas have pretty much lost their grasping big toe. That is somewhere around 55, 60 million years ago. Some creatures began to live in trees, and they began to develop this, not ours. Ours is very specific, but something like a grasping hand and grasping feet. Along with that, if you're going to grasp, you can't have claws. Claws don't grasp well. So you end up with nails. Now, the thing about nails is, on the other side of the nail, you get one of the most interesting things existing, which is this, right? I think I asked you, didn't I, about if you ever had two brand new bills stuck together in your hand and you know it's not just one? Oh my God, the level of perceptive quality that goes into knowing that. Well, it all comes about because of this very weird innovation that the police call fingerprints, but that everybody in the world of biology and primates does not think of fingerprints, things as tactile pads. So what you get is rather than having a smooth surface, when something rubs across a smooth surface, you don't get much information. If you really want to increase exponentially the amount of information you're going to get off of a surface that has nervous tissue, just do this. This vastly increases the amount of information you get by creating these tactile pads. So humans have inherited these incredible tactile pads as part of having grasping hands and feet. So now, again, back to my octopuses are the god student. That's just a joke, but you know. Weirdly, octopus suckers may be even more interesting than human tactile pads. So there's one of the few other creatures that has something like that. Yes?
Which animals have tactile pads? Is it only humans?
All the primates.
All the primates.
Yeah, and we have inherited that, and we've also inherited something that the rest of the primates can't quite do, which is the precision grip, this thing right here, which vastly increases our ability to get information from that. Yes? Okay, so also, primates have hind limb driven locomotion, whatever. Incredibly reduced sense of smell. So primates are a set of creatures that when somebody farts in the room, all the primates are like, I didn't do it. A dog will know precisely who did it, what they ate that day, what their mood is. All the trails of molecules in the room, we're able to locate every single trail. Humans are like, nope, not me. Nope, I never fart. Never happens. We have terrible sense of smell, but we have some of the most remarkable vision in the animal kingdom. Once again, octopuses do it very well too, although they don't have a stereoscopic vision system like ours, but they have a remarkable vision. But we've got such remarkable vision for a land-dwelling animal. And what you should do if you ever are bored, you know, we're always bored, right? That's why God invented the internet. Was because humans are bored. On what day did God invent the internet? Late, right? He must have been bored too. By the way, I know God is probably not a he, but hey, I'm just going with the standard Judeo-Christian model here. The gods invented the internet on the day when they were bored. Is go online and look up how do predators see the world? Because it turns out predators don't have great vision. It's remarkable how good our vision is. We have forward-facing eyes encased in bone. That's not common of many other creatures. Here comes the big one. All of these are actually connected. These are all kind of one big thing. And I talked a bit about this yesterday to lead up to this. We have compared to our body size, so actually this is the key term. Compared to our body size, primates have the largest brains of all orders. We have the largest brain to body size ratio of all orders. Once you get a big brain, you've got a huge problem. You can't have a litter. So this gets that whole total imbalance between males and females. So rather than being able to compete on quantity, females must compete purely only on quality of offspring because they can only have one. We talked about this. Occasionally you get two. Nearly every example of triplets and beyond is a result of fertility medicine. So you get one in each litter. You have an incredibly long pregnancy and nursing phase. Then on top of that, you add this ridiculously extended juvenile phase. So we stop nursing at 3 in most small-scale societies, sometimes up to 4. But the juvenile phase universally across human societies runs from 3 to 4 out to about, say, an average of 15 to 16, which is just bizarre that it's that long that we are dependent upon parents for a good amount of our resources. Then you add, weirdly, a long lifespan. So I've been talking about the fact that actually selection designs death into the model. It's called antagonistic pleiotropy. And in getting a large brain, one of the things we get is a long lifespan, right? And then, of course, the whole point of a large brain, remember, one of the things I said was, if you are living in an environment where there's no change, dump all of the learning. It's way too expensive. Because think, I gave you 3 costs of learning, right? It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of energy, you could learn the wrong thing. But a big brain is the biggest cost of learning. Remember what I said from the expensive tissue hypothesis from last week, which is that the brain is 2% of your mass, yet uses 20% minimum of your calories at rest. That's way too expensive to have as tissue. Just dump the fucker and have genes for it. But when environments are relatively changing, or when you're a multi-environment creature, then you have to learn a lot more. So you get a big brain and you get a lot more dependence on learning and behavioral flexibility. So this is what you get. Okay, large brain, you get long pregnancy and nursing, you only get one offspring, you have a long juvenile period. By the way, this actually puts more pressure on females. So around the globe, and this is not a sexist system, it's just what it is. Around the globe, the people who have to be concerned most about spacing children is which? Males or females?
Female?
Females. It's not some kind of weird sexist argument about how it should be. I don't care about that, that's fine, whatever. But the fact is if you're going to ensure that your next offspring survives, and you've still got a dependent 6-year-old, you got to think about whether you're going to get pregnant or not. Does that make sense to you? Yeah, I'm not arguing for who is superior, inferior, what is right or not right. The fact is, you are still supporting your 6-year-old, so you're going to have to take calories away from your 6-year-old to be pregnant and nurse. You're going to have to think in a low-calorie environment, can I handle this, right? Now, maybe you rope the male in. Of course, that's what humans do. But in roping the male in, who's still having to worry about it?
Female?
The female, she's the one pregnant. So when you think about that, the pressure on females just really ramps up. Yes, males too, because males have to be concerned, am I passing on my DNA? But that's indirect, can you see? It's an indirect concern. For females, it's direct. Does the thing inside of me survive? I'm nursing. Am I nursing something that's going to live? So this whole thing is for primates really does put pressure on females to try to strategically figure out their lives as they go along, which is bizarre because today I'm driving in listening to a podcast, as I often do, and this was a podcast discussing the problems of fertility medication, and the problem is who is most affected by delaying reproduction in terms of ever being able to pass on your DNA, males or females?
Yeah.
Jesus effing Christ. It's endless. So no matter what you do, let's say you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, and I mean like any kind of doctor or lawyer, get an MBA, be a CEO, you are inevitably, if you are a female, going to delay reproduction, right? So if you delay reproduction or to build success in the world, what are you now risking? Not passing on your DNA. It's the weirdest set of conundrums, paradoxes, and problems that face humans, especially human females, once you sort of enter into the system. After all, no large brain, no CEOs, no MBAs, no doctors, no lawyers, right? So it's a really interesting set of problems. Always fascinates me. Where do you find us? Well, we are a tropical creature. So you find us famously in this zone across the globe. Here we see the living. So it's primarily South America and a little bit of Central America, primarily Africa and Southeast Asia. But in the past, we've had primates all the way up into the North Americas, into Europe, and across a little more of Central Asia, or I should say Southern Asia. Right? We tend to be day living, so nocturnal is night living, diurnal is day living. So we have some of the earliest primates were nocturnal, but most all, I think only a couple of modern primates are in fact nocturnal. You saw the owl monkeys. We're all over the place in terms of food. Most primates are omnivorous, so think all the gorillas really are pretty much leaf and a little bit of fruit eating. Orangutans mostly fruit eating, but chimpanzees and bonobos eat whatever they can get a hold of. Obviously, humans are omnivorous. Baboons, you saw, are omnivorous entirely. Yeah, so that's pretty common. We probably all start as frugivores. The basic feeding pattern of most primates is being able to eat fruit. Folivory, or folivores, that's your basic leaf eaters. You saw the howlers, gorillas. Large primates are able to eat leaves. So the reason why large primates only can survive off leaves, even to a degree humans, is because per unit of mass, we need less calories. Per unit of mass, we need fewer calories. We burn cooler. Smaller primates, smaller animals in general, burn hotter. They need maybe an absolute less amount of calories per day, but per unit of mass, they need many more calories. Therefore, they need a higher quality diet. So smaller primates tend to move towards being insectivores, carnivores, and omnivores, and frugivores. Larger primates tend to be able to be folivores alone. How do we survive in terms of getting around? All right, so can I put this up there? Can I get up that high? No. Okay, so let me put it over here on this board over here. It's wonderful having a big screen, but you can't always write stuff with it. Okay. So locomotion actually works with primate groupings. So VCL. That was clever. It didn't work out very well. That's no worse than spotting a gymnast. Come on, baby. Turn over for me. What? Okay, VCL is prosimians, or the earliest primates. And that is lemurs, lorises, and tarsiers or tarsiers. Quadrupedalism. Pedalism. That's your monkeys. And this is true quadrupedalism. It's literally, so when you see baboons walking on the ground, they're walking on their hands like a dog walks on its paws. Okay. Now, there's another kind of quadrupedalism called knuckle walking. okay? And that's walking on the backs of your hands. So apes, their hands are curved to hang onto branches because apes are what are called suspensory locomotors. So monkeys, one of the weirdest things you can ever watch is a whole bunch of baboons running up into a tree and across branches and then running back out of the tree. They are all running on top of the branches, these huge animals. That's why baboons are often ground living as opposed to spending much time in trees. But when you look at apes, they don't run on tops of branches. Remember the emperor tamarins, the emperor, the pygmy marmosets, the emperor tamarins, and the saddleback tamarins. Remember they were all running on top of the branches? When you look at apes, they hang with their upper limbs. How you doing? They hang with their upper limbs, and they push down with their lower limbs. So their hands are hooks designed to hang from the branches and not let go. Well, because their hands are designed as bone hooks, human finger bones, can you see? The bone is relatively straight. The reason why our hands hang in a curve is because of the muscles, ligaments, and tendon structure that curve your hands. The apes actually have curved finger bones. The bones themselves are a hook, and then you add the tendons, the ligaments, and muscles, and it's even more hook-like. So when they're on the ground, they can't walk like this. Their hands and wrists don't work that way. So instead, they walk on the backs of their hands. That's called knuckle walking, which means that when they're in the trees, they suspensory locomote. Locomote? Locomote. Locomote?
Yeah.
Fucking I give up.
No,
I think it's locomote.
You got on the last one.
They suspensory locomote. Let's try it. So, and suspensory locomotion. And that is the apes. Okay? So you can break it down pretty easily into the groupings around the natural break. Bless you. So again, VCL, it's called vertical clinging and leaping. I'll show you a bit of that. That tends to be our earliest primates. Quadrupedalism, true quadrupedalism, just walking on your hands and feet, monkeys, and then knuckle walking and suspensory locomotion, apes. Now, the thing is that in knuckle walking, in quadrupedalism, true quadrupedalism, you have genes that control back and front leg length, structure, and function. So that is, it's called correlated characters. In building the creature, the system that builds the back legs has to build the front legs. Why? Why can't you have different gene systems building back legs and front legs in a true quadruped? Think of a lion running across the environment. Why wouldn't that work?
Because they're not that different and you need them to be even.
You need them to be so closely coordinated that a cheetah, apparently I need more coffee today. I'm tired too. Like you guys get tired over the week, I stand up here and do my 2 hours. I am exhausted, I must admit. So a cheetah can run 60 miles an hour. Can you imagine if one bit of that coordination fell apart at 60 miles an hour? What happens when a wheel falls off a car at 60 miles an hour? That is the end.
Cheetahs sank to injured or else they're pretty much dead.
Yes, so a cheetah that suddenly loses any coordination among the four limbs just goes head first into the dust and starts flipping. Exactly. But notice, somewhere in the past 10 to 20 million years, or maybe a little more, 20 to 30 million years, apes evolved with distinct front and back leg length, structure, and function. So apes are suspensory locomotors, which means their upper limbs are pulling. They're a different length, they're a different structure, they have a different operating principle from their legs, which push. So think about this. Where is bipedality going to evolve? It's going to have to evolve out of a creature that has a differing system of genetic control for upper and lower or front and back limbs, right? That's going to be pretty rare in the animal kingdom. You are not going to find a lot of places where bipedalism is going to evolve. Moreover, we already have a system that is grasping. So by freeing up these limbs, which are hanging limbs, and already genetically disconnected from what our back legs do, we are capable of building a creature that can walk around and even run. Who's run uncoordinatedly with your arms by your sides, or when you were young did that thing where you ran like this? Anybody remember doing that? So I know this because when you teach little 4 and 5-year-olds how to run, one of the things they sometimes do is run wrong, like this, and you go, okay kid, keep going, you'll figure it out. Relax your arms, don't try so hard to run properly. And then we teach them how to march. So when you start when you first go to compete, you have your floor routine. You've all seen it, right? They march out of the floor, they go like this, right? So the thing is when you teach them to march out of the floor, they always do this. And you go, wait, back up. Here, move your left arm forward with your right leg. And they go. But it turns out, because we have a distinct body system where front and back limbs do the different things, we can actually be confused when you are young in terms of how it all works. So that tells you something, that if we're going to evolve to have this wonderful hand that does all these amazing things, we're not evolving from this, we're not evolving from quadrupeds, we're not evolving from dogs or horses or from cats or from other things. We're going to have to evolve from some weird creature that has already evolved this system, which is kind of interesting. Yeah?
So you said that bipedalism does come from having 2 separate genetic...
Yes. So think about it. And obviously that had to evolve somewhere, because of course the chimps are a vertebrate, right? As are all primates. They're vertebrates, and so they evolved from a system where that was coordinated. But somewhere that when they evolved that, we then evolved from that. So it's quite fascinating because our feet and our hands do very different things, as do our arms and our legs. All right, so that will help you with the exam, knowing about that stuff. So here's the VCL. This is a tarsier, you can tell by the large eyes. This is their spring-like. Here they are gripping a branch. So this is how they do it. They grab like this, they're little creatures, and they go, jump, jump, jump. So it's called vertical, clinging, and leaping, right? Here's your classic, I love this quadruped. Look at this baboon with his hands like ours, but flat on the ground. Can you imagine walking around your hands? That's so interesting.
I did it when I was younger.
I think we all did, right? We all, I still have a girl in my gym named Claire. She's a bit of a crazy, we love her. She loves running around the gym like this. And I had to stop her from doing it because she also likes diving onto her head. I said, Claire, no! Right for the 5th time she dove onto her head. Oh, God.
Mine was that, it's probably that.
For her, the problem is she started jumping off higher and higher things onto her head. I said she's a crazy one. Here's your classic knuckle walk. You can actually see the hands turned under. And you can also notice the body is less horizontal. Can you see it? 2 things happen. First off, your arms are actually longer than your legs. So when you look at like a gibbon, like this, their arms are twice as long as their legs and more. But the thing is not only are your arms longer than your legs, but when you knuckle walk, it kind of straightens your elbows. Think about it. It's hard to knuckle walk like this. So you walk on, see how it works? By straightening your elbows, it supports your body over the knuckle walking hands, but you bend your back leg. So you're already a little more vertical than a normal horizontal quadruped, which is moving towards
Bipedalism.
Yep, interesting. And then, of course, there's the very rare event of George of the Jungle. That's extremely rare. No large creature. You will see chimps, you actually saw it in the film, they will brachiate, it's called brachiate, a little bit. But why should no large creature ever brachiate? The next branch is death. Turns out that I think it's about 60% of gibbons have broken bones from the next branch being death, and they're little. So brachiation is very rare because you cannot guarantee life on the next branch. Yes.
What's recreation?
Great. George of the jungle.
Swing.
Swinging from branch to branch. Yep. Orangutans never do it. Orangutans are so massive, they just kind of go like this. Testing each branch, grabbing. Yeah. They're very
Well, they
careful.
don't die as much.
Yes, they don't. This is a very good point. Okay, so now, if you're in the lab class, and if you're interested in biology, this is all being thought out. I take this version because I think it's nice and simple. There's a whole other way of doing this now, so I don't test you on it. So you don't have to worry about this. But I'm teaching you the basic thoughts of how this works. So primates are broken into two big groups. We call suborder. My version, don't care. For example, I know Gil, I think, does the modern version, so he'll probably test you on that, so don't use mine. Okay. So prosimians and anthropoids, that's the primitives and the moderns. Prosimians are kind of the original primates. They have more smell, their eyes are a little more to the side, and they include these three. There's the classic prosimians. You see their ring-tailed lemurs on the left, all in Madagascar. Tarsiers there with those giant eyes.
King Julian.
Is that?
King Julian.
I don't know that one. You got to see.
Madagascar.
See Madagascar?
Oh my God, the movie Madagascar. Wow, I saw that when it first came out, and I have blanked it from my memory.
That's impressive.
It's a good movie. I remember it was a good movie. That's all I remember. Wow, we're going back in time. Then the anthropoids are broken down to monkeys and apes. You've got, first off, the New World monkeys. Now, they're called platyrrhines because rhine means nose and plata means split, like platypus. That just means their nostrils point outward. The Old World monkeys and apes are called catarrhines, like cataract. That just means straight line. Their nostrils, like ours, all point together, downwards. You don't care. But it's Old World monkeys and apes versus New World monkeys. We did the New World monkeys in the film a little bit. We saw the capuchins, the marmosets, the tamarins, the howler monkeys, a whole bunch of them. They're all tree living. They have some prehensile tails. They've got the sideways nose, and their teeth are different.
What's the difference between like the old world monkeys and apes versus like the Prometheans?
Prosimians are the most primitive of primates. They tend to be smaller. They're a little more night living. They have a little more sense of smell, and they are defined by having somewhat smaller brains. A little bit. They're just more primitive.
And clinging tails, right?
No. They don't have the clinging tails. That's this. Once you get to monkeys, you get to the New World monkeys versus the Old World monkeys and apes. New World monkeys are all in South America, Central America and South America. They are all tree living. Some of them have a tail that grips, the prehensile tail, and they have their sideways nose. Old World monkeys and apes are all African and Asian. Okay? I think there's one European monkey called the Barbary macaque, but otherwise they're all African and Asian. Okay? Here's your New World monkeys. So there's the classic grasping tail. You can see the sideways facing nose in this picture. You can see it again here. Here's a howler with their grasping tail.
What do you think about the sideways figure?
I haven't a clue. I am not a monkey fan. I mean, I love studying about monkeys, but I don't do their physiology. So that's something you could research. It's a good question. I don't know. Gil may know.
Yeah.
He loves this stuff. He goes on and on. I know. I do all the basics because I'm all about brains. That's all I ever wanted to know about was brains. I'm a zombie. Since I can't eat your brains, I want to understand them. You all have seen Zombieland, right?
Yeah.
You know what to do when the zombie apocalypse hits. You need to see zombies. It's very important. Double tap. Double tap.
Yeah. That's great.
Very Seriously, that film is hilariously brilliant. Okay, so all our monkeys all have tails, except for the one European one. Apes don't have tails. They have a tiny tailbone. We have a tail, if you will. We have a tiny little tailbone, but it's hidden, so we say we don't have a tail. You can say the same thing about apes. They have a little bit of a tailbone, the coccyx, but they don't really have a tail sticking out, so we say they don't have tails. Apes have larger brains and larger brain to body size ratios. Apes have flatter rib cage. Here's why. When you are a true quadruped, like this, here I'll back up. Back it on up. Okay, so when you that, your internal organs hang down into a V-shaped rib cage. And your rib cage is there to support the internal organs and to protect them from various kinds of injury from the outside. So think about cows, dogs, all of them, all the deer animals, they all have V-shaped rib cages. When your dog lays on its back, you can see the rib cage is kind of V-shaped or U-shaped, right? That's what you see in all true quadrupeds. Now, apes are not a true quadruped, they're a hanger. Now think about it, if you have a big rib cage sticking out in front of you, you're not going to be able to hang as effectively in trees. It's going to be in your way. But also, when you're hanging, where do your internal organs go?
Down.
Down, exactly. So the rib cage isn't there as much to support and protect the internal organs. Plus, finally, anatomically speaking, when you're a hanger, you're better with a flatter rib cage, just in terms of the anatomical specifications. The shoulder blades of apes, because they are a hanger, this thing, remember we talked about earlier on? That tends to push your shoulder blades toward the back. If you're a quadruped, your shoulder blades are more to the side. If your shoulder blades are more to the side, what can you not do with your arms? Raise them.
Oh.
There it is, you knew. So this is interesting because one of the things we're going to talk about later on is that one of the logics of becoming bipedal is that a bipedal creature can walk around and do this. And that later becomes throwing. Human, you're good. Humans specialize. We are the throwers. There's only 2 sports that we excel in. The Olympics is such a frigging joke. We are the worst at nearly every Olympic sport of every creature on planet Earth. Every one of the track and field things, we should just be embarrassed and walk away. However, marathons, no other creature can do it like we do, and throwing events, we're there.
Well, the marathons is because we chase prey for a very long time.
Good for you for knowing that. We're going to actually talk about that later on, starting 2 million years ago. We do something called persistence hunting or power scavenging, where we don't have any weapons we can throw effectively, but we can run down animals. Nice job. Okay, there's your monkeys, lots and lots of them. All walking around with their hands. And then the apes and humans, so we have the lesser apes, the ones that do brachiate. So you have your gibbons and siamangs. The gibbons brachiate a lot. They're the ones that swing from branch to branch. As I said, they suffer from that, from having something like 2/3 of their skeletons feature broken bones, and lots of them die from falls. Okay. Listen, I read a book the other day about how selection is friendly, and I immediately put the book down. Natural selection is, as the great statement goes, red in tooth and claw. Holy shit. Okay, and now we get to all the things we care about in this class, because clearly we are derived from apes. So what we're going to start with is the ape furthest away genetically from humans, and then we're going to work our way towards us. So classically, and now we have to flip the board over and talk about dimorphism. The farthest ape of the great apes away from us in terms of relationship are orangutans.
Yeah.
They are found in Southeast Asia, you saw in the film. This is a male, you can tell because of the massive cheek plates. They are knuckle walkers, or as you saw, what's called quadrimanual. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, slowly through the trees, like this. They eat lots of fruit if they can get it, and young leaves. Young leaves have more protein. So it's a way of getting some protein in their bodies. Now, dimorphic. Okay, so now we're on to another part of the exam and the course, and this is sexual dimorphism. Okay, So dimorphism, di, split, morph, form, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, where you see a difference, a significant qualitative difference between each of the, in this case, sexes. It's mostly based on size. So here are the basic features. It's size, strength. I can't spell strength apparently. Power. What's the difference between strength and power?
Power, strength, over time.
Good job. Ferocity. Okay, so these two are obviously about hormones. These are about size. Larger size means greater strength. That's just the way it is. And then you also, this is the primary, and then secondarily you get things like canines, so larger canines for fighting. So you've noticed, right, gorillas have massive friggin' canines. They eat leaves. You don't need canines for leaves. Canines are no use for leaves at all. So what are they using the canines for? Fighting each other. There you go. Okay, so what is all this about? Well, sexual dimorphism is and you want this just this way in your notes, a nearly perfect indicator of sexual and social strategies. It's a nearly perfect indicator of sexual and social strategies. In other words, grouping. And here's the basic rule. And you'll just have 3 to remember. So high dimorphism. This means males 2 times the size of females. Can you see how I've made it kind of shorthand? Males 2 times females in size and strength, for example. And this is usually found in single male, single female groups. Okay? And the classic example, gorillas.
And what is it?
So high dimorphism means males are 2 times the size of females. Tends to be found in single male. What did I do that for? God, I really need more coffee. Sorry. Single male, multi-female groups. Classically gorillas. Moderate dimorphism.
What's S in a
Single male, multi-female. And you'll get used to that a lot. You'll see it a lot after the rest of the course.
Like polygyny?
Yes, indeed. And good for you for knowing it's polygyny specifically, because that also relates to humans, right? Moderate dimorphism is males about 1.4 to 1.5 times the size of females. Somewhere in there. Gil will have a different number, maybe 1.3, might go a little bigger, don't know. Males about 1.4 to 1.5 times females, classically found in multi-male, let me write it correctly, multi-male, multi-female groups, classically chimps. Okay. Low dimorphism is males 1.1 to 1.2 times the size of females. I think that's pretty much established now. Tends to be found in monogamous groups. That is single male, single female. And classically, of course, that is humans. All right? So there you go. Now, what is dimorphism about? Well, I tried to give you a clue with the gorilla. So gorillas are these massive creatures. We'll get to them in a few minutes. They have massive canines. Their bodies are upwards of 400 pounds. That is an incredible big primate. Females are closer to 175 pounds.
For gorillas?
And they've got these massive canines. They're eating leaves all day long. And basically, they just sit around. Because at that size, to eat enough leaves to survive is basically you eat and chew and sleep all day long. Why are you sleeping? Not why are you sleeping currently right now, but why are you sleeping as a gorilla? Because you can't afford to digest and be awake at the same time. That's how bad it is. Remember the howlers? They're like that. Wait, everybody's supposed to talk to me today. They're like that because they literally can't afford to be active and digest. It's too many calories. Okay? Go away. Okay? All right, so what is it about? It's about male-male competition for access to females. Go back to the thing we talked about yesterday, which is dominance hierarchies, what this is all leading up to. So male dominance hierarchies are around access to females. Female dominance hierarchies are around access to resources, okay? Females are the basic body plan. Before there was sexual reproduction, there are only females, if you want to think about it in that sense. Once sex is invented, discovered, evolves, however you want to look at it, essentially what has to happen is females have to evolve a duplicate body in some sense that is wandering off the same DNA. You have to give that body arms and legs, eyes, ears, and a nose. Why? Because it's got to get away from you. Why don't you want the body you've just evolved to be standing right next to you if you're the female that has now invented sex?
Because of incest?
Incest. There you go. See? So you got to give it a brain and eyes and nose and ears and the whole bit so it wanders off. And then that means random mating in a larger population produces a circumstance where you are unlikely to mate with somebody who has near your DNA. All right? Okay. So having done that, having invented that body, you've now got a problem. You're still doing all of the work. How come we didn't have males do lactation, nursing, while females do pregnancy, thus balancing out the system? Well, it turns out that you can't be a male, at least among mammals, and be fertile if you nurse. And if you know your biology, you'll know the reason better than I do. I have no idea. All I know is that this means that males become the holder of sperm. You give a key and lock system, penises and vaginas, and then what you do is you have to worry about how the female is going to be able to get enough calories to do all the work of reproduction once you become mammals and internally fertilize. Yeah.
Wait, what did you mean about, were you saying that females are infertile while they nurse?
Males are infertile. They can't produce motile sperm if they're a lactator. So the females couldn't give the duty of lactation to males. Obviously, females don't want to get pregnant, right? That's just how it works because they have the eggs. So they're going to be the ones that are pregnant no matter what. But how do you do the work of investment if you also have to lactate your internal fertilizer? You're a mammal, right? Okay, so what do you do then? You should give it to males, right? But apparently males can't do it. So this ends up with an imbalance. Does that make sense? Now, I don't know the logic of the imbalance. You can research it. I have never researched because I've always got too many things I'm working on at any one time. So given the imbalance then, once the brain gets large enough and the number of offspring gets small enough and the time expands and the energy expands, then males are suddenly going to change their strategies. Well, think about how competition works. If you're a gorilla, you're living in this, here's your male. So males are circles and arrows. Females are circles and plus signs. So you've got, let's say, 3 or 4 females, and I'll make these a little bit smaller, you've got your nursing and non-nursing juvenile offspring. So, can you see what I'm doing? If they're still nursing, I give them an N, otherwise I make them smaller. Does that make sense? So this is my whole, if you will, mating group or family group. So all the females have their dependent offspring, whether nursing or not. Okay, here's your single alpha male. So now, in mammals, as well as many animals, we see birth parity. There's an equal number of males and females born, more or less, right? Okay, what's missing in this picture? I know, it's Thursday, we're 2 weeks in, your brains have turned to mush and all you're hoping for is some sleep. Yeah,
All the bachelor groups?
there it is. Where's the rest of the males? I got 4 females and 1 male. I'm missing 3 males. Where are they? They are the bachelor group. They are these sad and lonely males hanging out the dive bar on the corner, pretending that life is all fine because they got some buddies. Now here's the thing. Think about the competition to be the one male that does all the copulating. Remember that yesterday we talked about variation? Many males will never have any offspring. Some males will have hundreds over their lifetime. So think about the pressure, the competition to be that male. So what's going to happen? You're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Why? Because size is the key. This whole world, I think I talked about this a little bit the other day, this whole world we live in with martial arts and James Bond going around kicking the shit out of 9 people, If you walk up to a guy who's 7 feet tall and weighs 250 pounds and you punch him, you're just gonna hurt your hand. Because the fact is that my mass doesn't have the power to punch and hurt somebody who is nearly twice my weight and certainly a foot taller than I am. It's not gonna happen. And their reach is gonna be bigger than mine, their swings are gonna hit harder than mine, their kicks are gonna hit harder than mine. So as you get bigger and bigger, you simply become superior in some ways when it comes to fighting. I think you pointed out that brains are what make the difference. You were correct about that. That's why we grow bigger brains. Gorillas don't. Gorillas do it all by size, canine size, and then the power and ferocity that comes from the hormones that males have. Now,
They don't need it, really.
we don't need as much, yes, but they do. By the way, the hormones are related to testosterone. So testosterone makes every pound of male muscle both stronger and more powerful. It contracts faster than every pound of female muscle. And the ferocity, so aggression isn't driven by testosterone, but it's correlated with testosterone. So this is another part of this. Okay, that means then that the little gorillas have no offspring. The big gorillas have all the offspring, so in the end, we know size runs in family, that's the cave story, remember? In the end, gorillas get larger and larger and larger. Okay, that's maximum male competition. Okay, now, let's move to something a little bit less. Let me turn this off for a second. Up. Now look at this. And this is where your comment comes into play. Yes, go ahead.
If the bachelor group takes over, like an alpha male, alpha males, females, like how do they decide who's gonna be the alpha male?
Weirdly enough, you just jumped to the next system, and I've never thought of thinking of it that way.
Okay.
So here's a question. What evolves first in primates? Single male multi-females or multi-male multi-females? I have no idea. I know it's based upon resource on the ground. Females dictate all grouping patterns. It's how the females distribute themselves around resources that dictates how males work. But your question begs something really interesting. So let me try to answer it this way. So what happens if there's a large number of females? This is the only way I know to do it. Because your question comes from the opposite direction. I just don't know. If there's 10 females who clump together, you can't be a single male that takes over. Why? It's really simple.
You just don't have enough time and energy and resources to be with 10 women.
No. Tell Elon Musk that. No, actually, listen, this is how bad it is. Males will kill themselves trying. Yes?
Will incest be a problem once, like, all those females have
The vote?
the same baby dad?
Nope. It's this problem. This is why the end you came from is really interesting. Now you have how many males you have to drive off?
A lot more.
9.
9. No one, I know all the martial arts tricks, has ever beaten up 9 other males without a machine gun or seriously amazing martial arts skills. or just being, I don't know, filled with nanobots. So the thing is, once you get beyond 4 or 5 females, the males can no longer compete sufficiently as individuals, and they begin to clump. So you get this. Now this is where it gets really weird, because on the one hand, the dominant male is often younger and a bit larger. Remember what David Attenborough said? He said, the alpha male, through a good deal of muscle, this male, through a good deal of muscles, become the alpha male. Yeah, you tend to be pretty strong and you need to be young. When you're my age, you're like, what the fuck? I haven't got the energy, my hips hurt too much. Not happening. Have fun, guys. So here's the thing. The number 1 male has enormous, this is a mating success. This is success, we'll call it fitness, right? The number 1 male will have the most offspring in terms of number of offspring, absolutely. But here's what happens. As you go down the list, and you get usually often smaller males are still having offspring, which means that genes for what kind of size? Smallness are getting into the future. Were genes for smallness ever getting into the future here? So that's why size is driven absolutely insane in single male, multi-female groups, whereas size is only driven somewhat in multi-male, multi-female groups. But the other trick is, it's not size. What is it?
Brain.
It's brain power. I even said it yesterday to set you up for this. It turns out that the most successful males aren't the largest. They often do well, right? They do well. But the most successful males are the ones who are the smartest. They form coalitions. They play games. They trade meat for allyships. They know how to play the social game. You'll see, for example, you'll see among chimpanzees, oh my God, the politics. By the way, this is Frans de Waal and Richard Wrangham, 2 of the greatest primatologists working in the field. Chimpanzee politics is just like human politics. There's all of this glad handing and all of this backroom game playing and hanging out. They're always watching each other. So if they see a couple of males get together, and I'm an alpha, let's say, and I see some males get together, they're not alpha now, but they're kind of second and third. I start getting in between them. I start giving each of them a hard time and driving them apart. It's so human. So yes, it looks like that even more than size, talk to Gil because he's an expert in this, intelligence begins to play a role. And this is why now most anthropologists, again, I'd love to hear what Gil says about this, agree that actually intelligence is what is motivated most in multi-male, multi-female groups, not size. Go ahead.
The longer that they reproduce, like every other male other than alpha, they're bound to eventually be smarter than alpha.
If that's what's being selected.
Yeah.
So in gorillas, it's only size. Because you're not forming coalitions and being clever. You're just beating the crap out of everybody else.
Yeah.
In those, if you are a smaller male who knows how to make allies, you can take over the top spot. Plus among chimpanzees, it's mom too, which is really interesting. Yes, go ahead.
So what did you say about like the bunching thing that had to do with the...
Well, let me do the whole thing. So competition is highest when it's single males, and it grows size the most. Size competition is moderate in multi-male, multi-female groups because being bigger gets you something. Bigger males do better. But it's also brains, and lots of males get to mate. Remember that, what was her name? Who was flirting? Shanti.
Shanti and Booster?
Shanti is flirting. She flutters her mauve eyelids. Good God, that was the scariest part of the film. You can see I literally have nightmares of her. So she's picking Booster. The names they give these poor animals. We're going to call you Booster.
She doesn't understand.
How do you know? You humanist, you.
I think they understand their names.
I don't know. I know my dog when I say Argo, but when I say food, it's much better. So, but see here also in these systems, part of the intelligence game is you see the females choosing as well. So again, once again, it's not all size. However, it's once you get down to monogamy that you get the lowest competition. Why? Because every male is a female. Birth parity. Since there's an equal number of males and females born, you actually get every male having the possibility of having, and when I say access, I just mean a relationship with, right? Okay, now, in this case then, so we have, and again, it's arrows and pluses, right? Arrows and pluses. Now, why do males get a little bit bigger then?
They don't need to fight anybody off.
They don't have to fight anybody off, so why get a little bit bigger? Size is cost no matter what. You don't want to be big, you want to be small. Well, because females do die in pregnancy and childbirth, and so there's going to be a little bit of mate guarding because there will be males wandering around. And mate guarding itself, you're mate guarding against many different kinds of things. So you are a little bit bigger. However, the argument is that intelligence is not growing because of this necessarily. And we'll get to that later on, okay? Because it turns out that humans actually begin in multi-male, multi-female groups, not in primarily in single male, single female groups. Okay, so that's dimorphism. Woof, that was a lot, huh? This plays throughout the entire course, okay? Because this tells us a lot about what's going on in groups. All right, so that's orangutans.
That was all about orangutans.
Well, it was about dimorphism. The rest is about orangutans. The orangutans, by the way, are solitary. So remember I said sexual dimorphism is almost perfect indication? Orangutans are one of the exceptions. They are highly dimorphic, but they're entirely solitary. Literally the largest social group is a mother and her offspring. But recent data has indicated that in fact they're only solitary because they're near starvation. So they may not be a solitary creature at all. Here I picked this picture deliberately. This is a gorilla. I think that actually Bill and I are going to disagree over this, so this will be interesting to see if you tell me about it. So for a long time, gorillas were literally the model of violence. So King Kong is a gorilla. All of the great sort of like ape attack movies usually feature gorillas because they're so freaking big. And look at them. Look at them. They're enormous. Again, they're incredibly dimorphic. Now, why do I say they're so incredibly dimorphic? If you start with a 175-pound body and you're eating leaves, you're not growing a 350 to 400-pound body. You're just not. So if you do, and males get that big, you had better have a reason for being that big. And what is it? Because this guy has all of the offspring, and all the rest of the males wander around in their days, hanging out in dive bars, playing pool, and wishing. Okay? If wishes were fishes, some of that. They're terrestrial. They're so big, they can go into the very, very lowest parts of trees, like massive trunk trees. They don't go up in high trees ever. They do that. They have single male, multi-female groups and a bachelor group. Thank you very much for that. They eat mostly leaves. Now, so in the past 30 years, everything is flipped. And what we now know is because they get so few calories, they're literally pretty much one of the calmest primates. Hang on, let me get through all this. They are nowhere as violent as chimpanzees. And so we now everyone talks about them as gorillas are the most peaceful creatures ever. Now this is why I think Gil and I actually might disagree on this. I say no, we have it totally wrong. What we did was we overbalanced the old King Kong Planet of the Apes narrative, and we turned them into these peaceful, easy, I've got a peaceful, easy feeling. And no, the gorillas are not the eagles in the 1970s. They are what I call couch potato psychopaths. So what you got is, tell Gil this, he'll be like, that guy is nuts. They sit there, the big beer bellies with a beer and a bowl of popcorn and a remote.
I've seen that meme.
all day long. And then every once in a while, very rarely, when they are having to defend a group of females, they are utterly, monstrously ferocious for a very short period of time. So I call them a couch potato psychopath. Most of the time, they're very peaceful. And one of the great things I saw was, you saw David Attenborough, right, hanging out with the chimps, which are far more violent, right? They are. But they're very used to humans. They're okay as long as you don't threaten a chimpanzee. It's all fine for the most part. You can even fight with the chimpanzee. You can play fight with the chimpanzee. I'll talk about that a little bit on the course. But yeah, here's the thing: with a gorilla, there's a famous video of David Attenborough with a gorilla, and it don't look like the chimps. Here's David Attenborough moving up to the male gorilla. Looking back, the camera's back there. The gorilla is the most interesting. He never stares at the gorilla, never nothing. And he creeps up like you're keeping going like a fly that's going to fly away, only very slow, very carefully. He sits down and with a chimp, he's like, oh, here, have a nut. Like, yeah, gorillas are really interesting creatures. We did have them entirely wrong. But now I think we've flipped over and turned them into, oh, they're just safe, nothing ever happens. But I think they're far more interesting. They can't afford to be violent because they're running at the absolute limit of their size and functionality in living. But they have to be violent enough to be able to do this against the bachelor males who very badly want to have opportunities to mate. And so I think that the very element of selection must prove them to be somewhat violent at times. You let me know what Gil says about this. Yes, go ahead.
I was gonna say, nowadays it's like a movie with boys of what they get over the top, so they don't actually have to fight.
Right. It's a very psychopathic kind of out of control kind of thing. And there is some violence occasionally, and it's quite violent from what I understand. I never get to see it. Yes?
Yeah.
Why chimpanzees are like fine with humans?
Why are they what?
Why are like not necessarily fine, but like calm with humans?
Okay, so gorillas are not social creatures. They are minimally social. They're also not very bright. Chimpanzees are incredibly social creatures, and they're very smart. And again, that's why I always defer to like Gil for this. To me, as a primatologist, when you look at a group like bonobos or chimpanzees, they simply understand the dynamics of interaction in terms of threat, not threat, aversion, attraction, friendliness, easiness. They understand the rules of engagement. In my experience, gorillas do not have any sense of that. They just don't have that understanding. I could be wrong. I know I'm right about chimps, but I might be wrong with the gorillas. I picked this picture of a chimp because that's exactly what you see. They're smart. You can see it, right? Just the way this and looking at you, they're smart creatures. They're engaged. Huh?
They're protecting their brain.
Or they're imitating some human probably, right? So they're a little smaller than humans. A male's about 100 pounds, female's about 70. You can see that's moderate. So if you take half of the female and add her, that means that he's about 1.5 times the size of her, a little bit less, probably 1.4 times. They are mostly terrestrial. They forage and sleep in trees, okay? They are knuckle walkers on the ground. They are suspended in the air. They are multi-male, multi-female. They're male groups because they're male-centered. Remember we talked about that yesterday. They eat everything. All right. They share 98.2% of our DNA. When I say they share our DNA, not only do they share our proteins, they share our coding sequences. You can have multiple coding sequences for the same protein. So that means we're actually sharing our DNA. They have 24 pairs of chromosomes. We have 23 pairs of chromosomes, but our chromosome number 2 broke in half. And that's how they end up with an extra chromosome. So even their chromosomal structure, their karyotypes look a lot like ours. They are our closest living relatives. I'm trying to think. I mean, there's no other humans living, so it's pretty much them. Yeah, go ahead.
What does philopatry mean?
Male-centered. It's females who leave the group at maturity, as opposed to male leaving. Remember the baboons? You saw that the male baboons have to leave and find a group. In this case, the females do.
So philopatry, love of country, love of territory.
Phylogen, love of. Fuck it. You tell me. Okay, now we're now called hominins. I want to be clear about this. Online, I did this because online it spells hominids. So actually, we're a hominin. Human ancestors are now, you know about this? So we're all hominins now, but nobody online accepts this. So I'm giving up. Fuck it, we're hominids for the moment. But it'll change. By the time you get out of college, I do believe the internet will finally catch up and it will be hominids. Okay, so I asked my wife at the time, I said, listen, I'm going to develop this slide. I'm pretty good at the class, and I want to change it a little bit. I want to develop this slide. So tell me, who's the ultimate human male? And she was Brad Pitt. Oh, fuck you! Hey!
You thought she was gonna say you?
Yes!
Can you fight that? I don't know.
So I fought back. I said, fine. I get to pick. I let you pick the ultimate human male. I get to pick the ultimate human female. She is no longer what she was, but she was at one time what every male on Earth desired. Just give me 10 minutes with your Angela. I'm fine.
Okay.
Here's the thing. My wife didn't speak to me for 3 days.
I understand what she's saying.
I fucking lost that war.
You always do.
Thanks. So after 3 days, we had a peace. We had a détente. We sat across the table, worked out our differences, made dinner, and then we picked again. Fuck you again! First, I'm not good looking, and now I'm not smart. Jesus Christ! But I won. This is a fight to the death. I actually did win, because brains are not what define humans. I picked the right one in the end. Her.
Power.
Karen? No. Queen Elizabeth I.
I said power.
Oh, I thought I said Karen. Okay, so this is Queen Elizabeth I, and she is unique in human history, I believe, of all humans yes, they're everywhere. In every country, there's a Queen Elizabeth I, but this is the one I know about. So I think that she's one of the incredibly unique individuals in human history. So, she ruled at a time when you did not get to rule unless you were a man, period. This is an incredibly patriarchal system at this time in history in the 1500s and 1600s in England, and in Europe, and in the globe for that matter. Next, if you were a woman, you could only rule-ish as long as you got
married,
and she never did. And she avoided getting married because that meant she would have to get married to another head of Europe or one of the noble families in England. And so she played all the noble families that of Europe who had male suitors that might be at her level, and all of the high nobility in her kingdom off for her entire life and never got married. She was also living in a time when you were the queen, you had the power. You bet your ass. She was an absolute monarch. What she said went. Then, she also did this really great system of keeping all the noble, because the noble houses did not like her. And they did not like having a queen ruling. So she invited the sons and daughters, the first sons, primogeniture, first sons, to come to her glittering, beautiful court to hang out. What was the purpose of that? Remember the baboons?
Make them think they have a chance?
Nope.
hostages.
Taking hostages. You can't commit civil war if your first kid is actually in the court, can you? That's dumb. She also both parlayed with the European powers, negotiated, strategized with, pretended she was good with, especially Spain. And then what did she do in terms of piracy?
Raided the shit out of their gold ships.
Backhanded the game by encouraging pirates and supporting them secretly in order to raid the various navies, especially of Spain, and basically steal money and destroy their ships. That's friggin' awesome. This woman is the greatest social strategist, I believe, that exists in European history. Far superior to any other. Now, of course, like I said, everyone has one, but I think she stands heads above so many of the European examples of just social brilliance. Was she an Einstein? No, probably not. She's not going to solve the world's calculus problem of physics. But she clearly understood people. And that's what we believe. Remember from the David Attenborough video where he talks about brain size and social complexity? We believe that the primary driver of intelligence is the ability to manage large amounts of social relationships. This comes straight out of modern neuroscience data on what is going on in your frontal cortex and prefrontal cortex. Yes, go ahead.
There's two types of people. There's multiple ways to be.
Oh, of course, of course.
Einstein said that.
Yeah, and yes, absolutely. And so I'm not arguing, I'm just arguing that the fundamental driver of intelligence does not appear to be Einsteinian brilliance. That's the tool problem. Remember the getting nuts out of shells. Not the mapping problem, which is kind of like massive expertise in mathematics, calculus, and geometry, but instead social engineering. And then, of course, all the other ones come along. Wonderful one.
Wait.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry. She's Queen Elizabeth I of which country again?
England.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is England.
This England, fucking England. I know. Obviously, there are lots. Like I said, everyone has a Queen Elizabeth I, but that's the one that I know. All right. So, oh goodness, we're into chapter 5 and 6 again. Let's see. We're doing good time wise. That clock says 11:25. My watch says 11:05. That clock is wrong.
Most
Okay.
of the
11:05 again.
yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Let's see what I want to do here. Okay, let's start with this, because our time is always so short, and you guys are bringing up so many great thoughts that I have to make sure I keep up. Okay, we did dimorphism. Remember on Monday, first off, you will notice when you go home today that I did this morning get up all the links for all the movies. Because I had no internet yesterday, I could not get up my office hours, so as soon as I get home today, it's going to be a little bit later. I'll get my office hours up, and then also tomorrow or Saturday, I'll get up the practice midterm. So you'll have office hours to talk to me whenever you need. You can also email me whenever you need if you have questions, because I'll meet you 7 days a week whenever I have time. You've got the links to videos. You're going to get the practice midterm. You should start studying for it, okay, to make your life easy. On Monday, we'll go over for the first time. Okay, so all species, I guess including plants, don't know how to thought of that before. All species have what's called a home range. And a home range is the area that contains all the resources you need every day. Real simple. The actual area you need to get your daily resources. So obviously it's going to include fresh water or potable water, because of course, especially in our environment, the savanna environment of Africa, where we are native to, if you will, water was a key survival element per day. It's going to need all caloric resources. How about that? That allows you to sort of cover the gamut. So if you're if you're an apex predator, that means you're going to have a pretty big ass home range. You're going to be wandering around looking for whatever prey animals you need. You need social sites. So for example, some birds have lek sites. Is the proper term lek sites? I think it's the right term. Yeah, that's where your mating and your social behavior occurs. You're going to need sweeping sites. Many creatures have to be very careful where they sleep. It's a big part of how they manage their day.
I thought you said sweeping.
Sweeping. Room. Yeah, so basically, it's going to include everything that every day you probably have to have. Maybe you can get away with not getting some calories for a couple of days, but not more than that. maybe, you can sleep rough sometimes, but no creature wants to sleep rough. Why? Because it's very insecure. Sort of all that kind of thing. Now, the thing is that most creatures on Earth, and I'm doing this deliberately, I know it looks not that useful, but most creatures on Earth, home ranges are porous. They don't stop other members of their species from going into their home range. They don't defend it. So, for example, you don't get up in the morning at 3 a.m., get out here with your guns and swords and pikes and staffs and maces and nunchucks and ninja warriors and line up around PCC and defend it. You fuckers, get the hell out.
Get off my lawn.
Get off my land. Yeah, you don't do that. So you could say that PCC is kind of a resource that we use, we come to it, but we're not territorial. We're not driving other humans away from it. And frankly, actually, my classic example of thinking about territoriality is actually all about an old man on his porch with a shotgun saying, "Get the fuck off my lawn, you little kids. It's mine." Home Alone? Everyone seen the movie Home Alone?
Yeah.
The guy next door, that's territoriality. No matter how awful and sad it is, it's mine, get away. So this is territoriality. Defending a home range that has everything you need against members of your own species. So a dog is not being territorial when they bark at the paper person or the delivery person. They're being territorial when they bark at other dogs. They are, however, being territorial for you when they bark at humans coming in. Okay? So one of the things that creates the symbiosis between dogs and humans is they're willing to be territorial for us. All right? So territoriality is about your own species. Now, territoriality is a particular strategy, and it's got very high costs. And here are the costs you have to have precisely. It's very hard, so you got to make notes on this. The costs are costs. Remember, that's the bad thing. That's what you don't want to give up. First, constant vigilance. When you're territorial, well, you spend all your time sitting on your porch waiting for people. You can't sit and watch television. You can't go on your social media account. You can't post your favorite sort of like cat videos. You're not at the house reading fun books and learning to improve yourself. You're just sitting on the goddamn porch waiting for somebody to step on your lawn. For someone's dog to poop on your lawn, I'll kill him.
It's illegal.
2, patrolling and defending.
I mean, that territory will no longer be yours when they arrest you.
Remember, this is non-human, right? I'm using human examples, but it is non-human. Patrolling and defending. So it turns out that groups of chimpanzees, males, very interesting, literally, look what I'm doing. I'm doing the arms the wrong way. See how weird it is? So literally, patrol the borders of their territories.
Yes, sir.
And should a male from another group approach, they will seek to drive away, injure, and even potentially kill that male. So they are being territorial, literally, over the females in their territory. So it's more about females. They're patrolling and they are defending constantly. And then finally, there's a risk of injury and death. So the thing about being a creature that is territorial is, it goes back to what I was talking about in dimorphism. Size is everything. Therefore, and by the way, this gets to the wonderful comment about gorillas, risk of injury and death. Wonderful comment about gorillas and baboons both being psychopathic in show even more than in fighting. Why? Because if you're going to commit injury on a creature that is equal in size to you, if you're a non-human, you can't rely upon martial arts and all kinds of clever things. You are going to have the same amount of damage imposed on you as you're going to impose on them. You may get a quick psychological advantage, and therefore you may get more injury in, but it's not a guarantee. Can you understand that?
Yeah, you get an equal and opposite.
There it is. The physics of it alone. meaning that every animal that has a bit of brain understands psychological advantage. I'm going to show it to you later in the class. They know when they have their moment, but it only gives you a jump. It gives you one jump on them, and that's all. So you're not going to spend is why you're so relevant. You're not going to spend all of your life energies trying to ensure injury or death. But once you get embroiled in a conflict, what do you notice about the emotion that you feel inside of you? It gets out of hand. Humans, we are not very physically violent, but more than chimpanzees could ever imagine, we are the most symbolically violent creatures on Earth. Symbolic violence, status, power, all these kind of status wars, keeping up with the Joneses. Have you ever gotten yourself in a competition where you're like competing for something and you start to get out of control? There you go. Once you get into the war, you then run into the problem of it's not controllable. That, by the way, is why you don't go to war. Not because you might lose, but because you might get in a spiral and cycle where you begin to be out of control of your own choices. That's a better argument for why you don't want to start a war. Look at what happened in World War I. World War I started as a oops and got worse and worse, right? So this is actually a big problem. Now, why are these costs? Well, what are the only two things you should be doing when you're a primate? Eating and damn, good for you. So, because this takes away from eating and reproducing, or if you want the more technical terms, from getting resources and reproductive opportunities, this is against that. This is versus. Because if you're doing this all the time, you're not doing this as effectively. You're lowering your fitness. Somebody in the class pointed out, forget who did it, that when I was talking about warfare, somebody pointed out that the most violent males are the most likely to die and the least likely to reproduce in warfare. That's actually correct. So super soldiers tend to just kill themselves off. Yeah, so there you go. Okay. One last thing. Territoriality, day range, and home range. You can only be territorial if how far you can travel in a day is about the same size as how big your home range is. Okay, so now, under what cases would it be worth to take on these risks? Well, look, there's resource defense territoriality, guaranteeing you more eating, and there's mate defense territoriality, guaranteeing you more producing. See the logic? Territoriality can evolve as a stable strategy as long as you're either actually guaranteeing that you've got plenty of calories or you're guaranteeing that you've got plenty of mate access. So, chimpanzees are doing which one? I just told you the whole story. They patrol their boundaries. Who patrols? Males do. And what are they doing? Driving away males from other groups. That's mate defense territoriality. For chimpanzees, territoriality has evolved as a stable strategy despite the fact that they're out there patrolling. They're not with the females. They're out there, they're gone. And they get in serious fights. These are not pleasant, fun little fights. Okay? They're not for show like the baboon thing you saw in the film. Okay? Okay, let's start with the first one. Resource defense territoriality, okay? And here is the rules you must know. So I gave you the costs. Here are the rules for the exam. It's always a territoriality question. Okay, resources. This is in order to command better resources. Resources must be 1, scarce, 2, clumped, 3, valuable. Classic example, we're looking at it. Fruit. And the counter example, leaves. I've been emphasizing this for the past few days because I've noticed that in the past students don't quite get in their heads. It turns out that in a rainforest, fruit is actually very scarce. And remember, we're a rainforest creature. we're looking at tropical zone creatures. That's our ancestry. And it turns out we all think, I thought for probably a good half of my life, that if you're in a rainforest, my God, calories everywhere. No, calories nowhere. Very little meat, and all the meat's very small. Very little fruit, and it's widely dispersed. And it goes to the David Attenborough video and the orangutans, who are living in this incredible rainforest, and they're solitary. Why? Starving from no fruit. They're too big and too energetic to live simply off of leaves. They do eat a lot of leaves, but they really need fruit for the calories. Now, class example to keep your brain thinking. $100 bills. And this will help you a lot. Okay. $100 bills are scarce, correct? I certainly wish there were a lot more. Clumped. Where are those fuckers? The goddamn bank. Or in somebody else's pocket. And they are incredibly valuable. Now, the thing about territoriality is, I said, you need to think of it as what? An old guy on his porch with a shotgun. Territoriality rules are based on one individual. Territoriality rules are based on one individual. A group can be territorial, absolutely. But the rules are based around one, and that's why a $100 bill is the best example. If I have a $100 bill, I'm doing great. If the class has a $100 bill, we're doing shitty. 1, 2. You all get $3.
Oh, I thought you meant everybody has $100.
No, we all have one $100 bill. You all got $3. You can't even buy fucking coffee at Starbucks for a grande. It's like $3.25.
What's even grande?
Medium. So think about that. How insane is it that we live in a world where one person got a $100 bill, they're happy, 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 but all of us, nope, not a bit. We couldn't even care. You wouldn't even get out of bed for $3. Exactly. So when you start thinking about what's territoriality and what is sociality, remember you are very closely paying attention to, are the rules about one or many? Okay, all right, so why cows don't carry guns and go gangbanging? First off, it's hard to hold the gun, you have to duct tape it to the hoof, and then you have to stand up to.
It's just utter chaos.
Oh my fucking God. Oh my God. Oh my Lord. No, not that bad a joke. Those are as bad as mine are. Wow, that's getting close to that. That's good. You have to work really hard in your day to come up with that joke. Holy shit. Wow, that was good. Oh, I'm so gonna tell that joke.
What's the
Oh, that's going in forever. That's never gonna leave. Woo! You know what jokes are so bad they're brilliant?
What's the joke? I couldn't hear.
It's utter chaos.
Oh.
I could never, that's just too good. Okay, so now that I've just lost my mind in admiration, I want to point out that cows eat grass.
Yeah.
Is grass scarce? No, look at the hillsides. Is it clumped? No, look at the hillsides. Is it valuable? No. Do you need a lawnmower? Hire a goat. One goat will literally mow your lawn and will just barely survive. There's no, why do we eat salads? Oh, that answer is so much better than mine because it has the correct chain of inference. Like, okay, so I don't want to gain weight, and I have to work out, I know, but I also want to eat healthy. I know it's better for me, so I'll be proud of myself if I eat a salad when I really fucking want bacon and cheesecake. Maybe bacon cheesecake, that could be a thing. Exactly. Or bacon candy. Ooh. So,
Yeah, that's good.
ooh. See, I love my 95% dark chocolate, and I like my bacon, but I can't have them together. I'm a little monkish. You know, remember the show Monk? I'm a little monkish. I can't do the good things together. Gotta be apart. But anyway, so I know this. It's like a digression, but no, actually, it's not. Where are all the calories in a salad?
Somewhere else.
In the salad dressing.
Oh.
But yeah, see, everyone gets it. There's no calories. That's exactly right. So the thing about cows is that cows don't go to war because they have no resources to fight for. Which it means it actually works. Herding creatures are relatively peaceful. They don't war a lot. The bulls do. But what are bulls fighting over?
Reproduction.
Access to females. It's so bloody perfect. But your herding animals all eat grass and leaves. And so there's nothing to fight over. Go ahead.
So remember yesterday you were talking about how like cows have big groups, but they don't need to develop big brains. Is it kind of the same principle there, where like because they don't need to fight each other because they don't need to there's a thought in here somewhere.
No, you've got it. This is what happened is you went into a loop, right? And here's the loop. Did they not get big brains because they have no calories and therefore there's no reason to fight because there's no calories? Yes. The whole loop is there's no selective logic to building more intelligence, more complexity, more reason to fight, the hormones for fighting. Why? Because they get money from it. Yeah, you have the whole thing. It just goes into a loop where you go, wait, what caused what? Well, probably the environment caused the situation. So yeah, exactly why cows don't really have that kind of instinct. And again, what is a herding instinct? Well, herding instinct is among herbivores. What is a pack, warring, fighting instinct? It tends to be more among predators. Well, there you go. Okay, so now, is it resources or mates? It's hard to tell, but here's the thing. One thing you can always know, if the females don't care, it's mate defense. Remember this. This is actually part of the question on the exam. How can you tell whether it's about resources or mates? We're doing resources right now. Well, because think about primates. In primates, females don't have to ever worry about mate access. They're not worried about males. They have plenty of males. So if females don't care, it's pretty clearly mate defense. Next,
The males care.
if females care, it's resource defense. Now here's the weird thing. I am astounded by this. Because, it used to be we thought, well, it's just Europeans, they're goddamn weird-ass games. But it turns out all the games that humans have, nearly all the board games, chess, checkers, all the little sort of like board games that have like sides, all the sports that humans have are all territorial sports. So field hockey, ice hockey, lacrosse, basketball, football of all varieties, all football varieties, including rugby and European football and American football, baseball and rounders. Baseball, by the way, is just you have only half a field and you switch who gets to defend the field. Endless amounts of sports are all about territoriality. Capture the flag. A lot of our kids' games are territorial games, and it's universal across human cultures, which tells you something really weird. We are probably hardwired to think about territoriality, which is an interesting comment. Next, now listen, because I have a mentor who is literally, this is her job in life, it gets very complicated. But most people would argue that the primary driver of human conflict is, in fact, resource competition. In the end, even after all the wars of religion, even after all the wars of every kind of possible imagined vengeance and every other possible thing, in the end it comes down to who gets invaded, who doesn't get invaded, how do you avoid getting invaded? It's all about resources. Land resources, natural resources, built up and complexified manufactured resources. And when you begin to think about that, you can begin to see the human species as deeply driven by territory. Even tribes, so if you know anything about history, tribal history is much more mobile, right? Tribes don't have borders. That's sort of the Westphalian, this is kind of the modern world we have borders, the Treaty of Westphalia, right? Instead, they had areas, but they still defended their water holes, their grazing lands, their areas. And that's really interesting. Just a thought. Now, we don't appear to be this. So we don't do much of this. So mate defense territoriality, to be specific, is defending females from males of other groups. So if you are doing this thing, did I keep it up here? I meant to. No, I didn't mess it up. If you are part of a male dominance hierarchy in a group, you are not doing mate defense territoriality because territoriality is defending an area, get it? So it's only if it's males of other groups. I use Atello because it's a classic sort of like war over jealousy, and it ends up in people dying. So once again, how do you tell? Because females don't care and males do. Females do not care and males do. Chimpanzees, classic example. Okay, my last bit today, before we get started, because I'm gonna let you go a little bit early today. It is Thursday. You've been, I have to say, although it's getting a little bit light, I've got with 23 here, but there's 36 enrolled. That means you guys are like, yeah, it's summer, fuck me. But on the other hand, you guys have been really engaged. You've made a great class, so I'm gonna try to give you Thursdays a little bit off if possible. So the next thing we're gonna talk about is now something that's very different than territoriality. It's sociality. They overlap. This is the problem. Like religion and science overlap. They're talking about the same things, but they are different, right? So in this sense, territoriality and sociality do overlap. They overlap in their data, they overlap in their conclusions, but they don't overlap in the rules. The rules of territoriality are one man on a porch with that. The rules of sociality, oh my God, the minute you become social, none of this matters. It's all gone. Because what do you have to worry about? The person standing next to you. Everything becomes about you. See, in this, you're really focused outward. You're focused on defending a region on your own. You're not worrying about what the person next to you might do to you. You're being vigilant, you're patrolling, but you're not worried about being backstabbed by the guy following right behind you. So half of Shakespeare's plays, right, are about how people get fucked up in all kinds of social situations. Romeo and Juliet, poor Mercutio, right? You know your Mercutios? Then Tybalt, Jesus Christ, what a mess. And then who dies at the end? The people in the fucking title. What kind of shit, what kind of play is that? And then think of Macbeth. Oh my God.
Oh, poor Cyrano.
Cyrano de Bergerac. But he's not a Shakespeare play. Let's see here. Macbeth. Oh my God, Lear gets fucked over by who?
Daughters.
Yes, his daughters, for Christ. You can't even trust your own fucking kids. And then this goddamn Hamlet.
Oh, yeah.
5 acts, 3 hours, everyone dies. It's like, so when you think about the rules of sociality, think about all the plays of Shakespeare. It's all about the other people. So what we have to think about is, who faces this kind of problem? And so when we come back on Monday, what we're going to work on is, what is sociality? How is it different than territoriality? And how do we understand what starts happening when you have sociality? Okay? So, we're done. Don't forget to get your name on the roll sheet. Thank you for all the great attention. Check out the practice meter when it goes up. Make sure you're kind of taking a look at it and thinking about how you want to ask questions.
My button.
Yeah.